Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us Across the Fence. I'm Fran Stoddard. As much as the pandemic has interrupted daily life, it's also served as a reminder of how human beings can adapt and rise to challenges. Perhaps the best example of this is how school-age children and their parents have learned to carry on even if it's remotely. UVM Extension's 4-H program has been a go-to when it comes to providing young people with opportunities to thrive in these trying times. We learned about a 4-H group that's taking on the competition and overcoming adversity with the help of robots. Keith Silva has our story.
The robot Isaac Vernon is building may not look like much, but he's confident in its abilities.
Yeah, I tested it out yesterday. That's how I know it shoots 20 feet. This is the third iteration of the shooter, actually.
Vernon is a member of the 4-H Manchester Machine Makers. They're competing in the First Tech Challenge. It's a robotics competition for students in grades 7 to 12. Teams design, build, and program robots to compete in head-to-head challenges. This year's competition will lack the carnival-like atmosphere of past contests. Instead, teams will run their robots at home, record their results, and submit their scores, along with a portfolio of their work, to a panel of judges. Vernon and his teammates have learned to adapt and overcome to any and all challenges.
What I learned this season was that not being able to meet in person is a lot more challenging than working on a robot while you're all together. The last time we met in person was all the way back in early November. We've figured out a whole bunch of tools to help with this, because we've been using Chrome Remote Desktop to figure out how to program the robot remotely when it's over in like a town 30 minutes away. We have a controller hooked up to a computer, then that computer is a client that runs to the host with the robot, and the robot has like a phone connected to that, which goes to the robot's phone. So it's like this huge setup that allows you to operate it remotely from anywhere in Vermont.
It's gotten us more efficient, I want to say, because it's gotten people knowing what they're going to need and planning ahead.
This is Charlotte Ruley's second year competing in the First Tech Challenge.
What do you like about robotics?
I like the precision, the being able to do math and know if something's going to be good or not. And so for the grabber I'm building, we had to do the torque calculations for the servos to figure out if it was going to be able to lift the wobble goal. It was just very precise and like nice and neat and like yes or no, this will work. And there weren't any like hypotheticals. It was just lovely.
The First Tech Challenges are a part of FIRST, the world's leading youth-serving nonprofit advancing STEM education. STEM is short for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
Oh, I really love robots.
John Cohen is a UVM Distinguished Visiting Scholar with the College of Engineering and Mathematical Sciences.
Part of my assignment at University of Vermont, I was working with colleagues like Doug Dickey, the assistant dean for the College of Engineering and Mathematical Sciences, and people at the Generator Makerspace, where I'm a founding board member. We came together and applied for a grant called a First STEM Equity Grant. And the idea is to try to get the STEM programs at all different levels to be able to better serve underrepresented groups, women, BIPOC, LGBT, and luckily for us, also rural people who are just underserved.
Thanks to Cohen and his colleagues, Vermont was selected as one of 12 recipients worldwide to receive a grant. The award of $40,000 will go to everything from kits to build the robots to establishing hubs where students can gain access to this technology. For Cohen, this is an opportunity to boost awareness and access of STEM programs in order to showcase the talent of Vermont students.
Whoa, did you see that?
I think my big takeaway is the sort of resilience and creativity of people. When I think about Vermont, you think about our brand of our brave little state. It's this kind of, Yankee ingenuity, and man, is it on display here.
Ruley and Vernon agreed.
you're given a problem and you get to work around it rather than through it. And it's just creative ways of solving the same problem. So it's, yeah, I don't know. You get to do the math behind it. It's logical, but it's also creative. And it's fun.
I like that it provides a lot more opportunities and like real world applications. It's almost like making a startup business because you have to market your program to get more people to join, engineer, design, prototype, and you have to meet the deadline of the competition. And it's interesting to go through the engineering process over and over again to design something that you get to use in a competition.
The First Tech Challenge teaches students to compete in a world of uncertainties. It's good experience to have when you're living through a pandemic and getting together with friends virtually to build a robot. In Essex Junction, I'm Keith Silva with Across the Fence.
The funding from that grant Keith mentioned has doubled the number of robotics programs in the state. There are now 26 First Tech teams in Vermont and more expected to come online this year. Joining me now is Kimberly Griffin. She is the 4-H educator in Rutland and Bennington counties. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So this coming weekend is the Vermont First Tech Challenge. What are you hearing from the teams who will be in the competition? You know, are they ready? Isaac and Charlotte certainly seem like they would be, but how's it coming along?
Well, I think at this stage of competition or pre-competition, it's a lot of nerves, it's a lot of healthy anxiety, but I think teams are excited. We had a good base of teams that are returning from years past, and then the work that John Cohn has been doing has brought on about a dozen new teams. So this year, despite a pandemic, was a big learning curve for those new teams. But I think generally there's a lot of excitement, and yeah, I think it's going to be great. The next week's going to be great.
I bet. So what do winning teams receive? Are there awards and recognition, or is it just doing it is the prize?
So one thing that I think is really amazing about FIRST and the way it's set up is a foundational concept of gracious professionalism. And that's combined with an idea of cooperation. So competition isn't totally the word, and cooperation is more key. So yes, there are teams that get scored and they are working toward a goal, but what's really beautiful is the prizes are about, they're titled like inspire and think and connection. And so really working together is the key, and creating a community of support and learning. I will say though that the top scorers do go on to world championships, and we've actually had some world champion teams come out of our competition.
Fantastic. And what happens to the robots afterwards?
So I want to say, like, remember that scene in Office Space with the baseball bat and the printer? But they don't do that. Typically, the parts are taken apart, the robots are taken apart rather, and parts can be used for following years. Right. What changes year to year is the challenge, but all of the components can be reused.
Fantastic. So you know, the teams had to come up with all this COVID protocols in order to share tools and resources and responsibilities to get their robots ready. How did that work out?
Well, as Isaac said, I think he listed off a bunch of different ways that they've been able to connect even to robots 30 minutes down the road, which is incredible. So they've been able to really harness a network of connectivity. And they've been challenged and risen to that challenge of what does it look like to work remotely as a team, much like many of us are in the professional world these days. And then also support of that grant has allowed us to do a little bit of duplication of parts. And so one team member, Charlotte, may have a part of the robot and Isaac might have the same part, and typically they wouldn't, but because they're working remotely, they can work toward common goals and try out different ways, then come together and say, well, my way, this garnered this result, how did yours do? So it's been a really amazing opportunity to work toward and around a problem together. Right,
an incredible challenge. And, you know, it seems that 4-H is all about hands-on, and there's nothing like this. You know, as Isaac said, it was like a startup business. I can't imagine there's anything better. What was some of their greatest challenges?
Well, funding. So the grant does support this work, but then each team is also charged to do some fundraising on their own. And so that was one big challenge, because a lot of times they rely on being in person and going to display their robot or to give a presentation to various potential funders. And then I think, yeah, hands-on for sure. Another issue has been a lot of teams are based in schools, and so they have access to 3D printers maybe through their tech center. So this year there's been a lot more cardboard prototyping and what's around the house that can be used to prototype a problem solution, rather than just like jumping right on to what does that 3D printer give us.
Well, it is amazing. It really is, as John Cohen said, you know, this entrepreneurial spirit and can do. There are adults that are involved, adult volunteers and parents putting in hours. What kinds of support do the parents provide or adults provide?
Yeah, so similarly to 4-H, and the two, I would say FIRST Robotics and 4-H go so beautifully together. So there are adult volunteers who are coaches. And then there are also like specialty mentors that might come in. So someone specifically who's going to come in and support coding problem solving, or who's going to specifically come in and support the hardware problem solving. And then of course, parents are supportive of getting youth to a practice, or in many cases now, like making sure, just like for our school aged youth, they're connected and Zoom is working and nobody else is on the network at home. And then honestly, what's been really beautiful to witness is the role of the adults is to then get out of the way. The space is for the youth to problem solve. They're coming up against a problem and might have some questions, and it is the adult's responsibility to actually continue to ask more questions rather than give an answer. So it's beautiful.
Is there a way, I'm sure people want to see this and see the robots in action. How can they do that?
Yeah, so there is a live event that is happening on Saturday, March 13th, and it is through Microsoft Teams. There's a link that will allow folks into that space. The part of the event is judged in private, and so that will happen separately, but around noon on the 13th, there's opening ceremonies. There's going to be some Q&A with teams that also allow them to showcase their robot. And then there will be an award ceremony that really celebrates the work that's been done this year. And
that's where you can go. Kimberly, thank you so much. Good luck to all of your teams, and thanks for being with us today.
Yes, thank you.
And thank you for joining us across the fence. I'm Fran Stoddard. Stay well.